There are quiet moments in the early light when the soul stands unguarded. Padre Pio understood this silence better than most. He once spoke of a man who treated the morning hours with carelessness and hurry. The man believed prayer could wait. But Padre Pio heard what happens when the soul begins its day without God's first embrace. He described a subtle spiritual drifting, a gentle weakening, a vulnerability that the man never recognized until the consequences appeared. If you have ever felt a quiet fear about drifting from God, pause for a moment. Leave a short prayer in the comments section. Lord, draw me back into your morning light. Writing it in the comments opens the heart and lets grace begin its work. Padre Pio said the first battle of the day is won or lost before sunrise. When Padre Pio spoke about the danger of neglecting morning prayer, he did not raise his voice. He simply revealed what happens beneath the surface of the ordinary day. He explained that the soul without early prayer becomes like a traveler who begins a long journey with no direction. The day may appear normal, yet small choices lose their anchor. Temptations grow subtle. Interior peace weakens. The spiritual senses become less alert to grace. He warned that the enemy begins his work precisely in these unguarded hours, not with dramatic assaults, but with quiet distractions that pull the heart away from God. A forgotten prayer becomes a forgotten grace. A forgotten grace becomes a forgotten strength. And forgotten strength becomes the seed of spiritual defeat. Padre Pio often said that morning prayer was not a task. It was a shield. It was the breath of the soul. It was the first light that keeps darkness from settling too deeply. He saw that when a person consistently skips it, the entire spiritual rhythm of life shifts. The heart becomes reactive instead of receptive, burdened instead of guided, unmoored instead of held. Padre Pio once shared an account that startled those who heard it. It was not dramatic, but deeply revealing. A man approached him during confession, burdened by a heaviness he could not explain. His life had not changed. His routines were the same. Yet his heart felt dim, and his joy came in short, fragile moments. He told Padre Pio he did not understand the cause. Padre Pio listened with a long, contemplative pause. Then he asked a simple question that the man did not expect. "When did you stop greeting God in the morning?" The man was confused because he had not thought of prayer as something that protects the soul. He admitted that his mornings had become rushed, hurried, and filled with anxieties. Prayer had slipped from priority to afterthought. Padre Pio nodded gently. He explained that the soul often feels the consequences long before the mind notices the pattern. The heaviness the man carried was not punishment. It was the natural emptiness of a heart that had forgotten to breathe. Morning prayer was the breath he had been missing. Then Padre Pio revealed something more unsettling. He said that when a person abandons morning prayer, the spiritual world notices. Grace is still offered, but far less received. Temptation finds small openings. Even the angels assigned to guide a soul feel the absence of cooperation. Not because God withdraws, but because the person begins the day with a closed door. This is why Padre Pio insisted that the first moment of the morning carries a weight the soul rarely understands. He saw what happens when it is forgotten, and how the ripple quietly shapes the entire day. Padre Pio often spoke of the morning as a sacred threshold, not a simple transition from night to day, but a hidden doorway where the soul chooses its guide. He believed that most spiritual battles never begin with dramatic temptations. They begin in the first quiet moment after waking. If the heart turns to God, grace enters gently. If the heart turns to the world first, distractions take root before prayer has the chance to anchor the spirit. He once reflected on how people underestimate the influence of that first hour. The mind is soft, the heart is open, the soul looks for direction. It is in this fragile instant that heaven leans close and the enemy watches carefully. Both wait to see where the soul will incline itself. Padre Pio said the angels rejoice when a person begins the day with a simple, sincere prayer. It becomes a signal, a declaration, a quiet alignment with God that shapes everything that follows. He explained that morning prayer does not need to be long or eloquent. It simply needs to be honest. A lifting of the heart toward the one who already holds the day in his hands. When this is missing, the soul enters the day without clarity. It becomes vulnerable to the noise that rises quickly. It gets pulled into concerns that stir restlessness and fear. Padre Pio said such restlessness is often the first sign that prayer was neglected. There is an account from those who lived close to him that captures this truth. A man would visit Padre Pio frequently. He admired his holiness, yet felt unable to imitate his devotion. One morning, he confessed that he felt overwhelmed by responsibilities and frustrations. He asked Padre Pio why he could not find peace even in seasons of relative stability. Padre Pio gently asked him how he began his mornings. The man admitted he usually woke up anxious and immediately reached for tasks. He said he did not think God required morning prayer from someone who was already struggling. Padre Pio's answer was tender yet firm. He told the man that prayer was not a burden placed upon him. It was the very relief he was searching for. He said that the soul, under pressure, needs morning prayer even more, not as an obligation but as a refuge, a place where the heart lays down its heavy stones before carrying the weight of the day. Padre Pio also taught that the devil fears the moment a person kneels in the morning, not because the prayer is long or powerful, but because humility begins to form. Humility draws grace. Grace draws protection. Protection draws strength. But when prayer is skipped, the soul stands exposed. The enemy does not need to attack violently. He only needs to whisper. And the whisper often goes unnoticed until it shapes the day. This is why Padre Pio pleaded with people to guard the first moments of morning. He knew that the earliest choices bend the direction of every hour that follows. He said that to ignore morning prayer is to walk into the day without the lantern God offers freely. There was a moment, recounted by those who heard it directly, when Padre Pio spoke with unusual gravity about a man who had slowly abandoned his morning prayer. The man was not wicked. He was not arrogant. He simply believed that the demands of life justified postponing God. His intentions were not hostile. They were simply tired. Yet Padre Pio said the soul can suffer greatly under the weight of such fatigue. One day the man told Padre Pio that he felt strangely distant from God. Not rebellious, just distant. He said his thoughts scattered easily, and his heart carried an unexplainable heaviness. He felt drawn to distractions more than to silence, drawn to worry more than to trust, drawn to human assurances more than to divine guidance. Padre Pio listened quietly. Then he said something that pierced the man's conscience. He told him that spiritual drifting often begins in small, invisible ways. No sudden moments, no dramatic events, just a gradual cooling that settles into the soul like early morning fog. And the first sign of this fog is the loss of morning prayer. Padre Pio gently described the pattern. He said that when the soul stops giving God the first moment, it soon forgets to give him the next. And when the next moment is forgotten, spiritual clarity dims. The person begins to rely on personal strength instead of divine grace. Fear subtly replaces trust. Restlessness replaces peace. The heart becomes shaped by the world before it becomes shaped by heaven. Then, Padre Pio added something that revealed the true spiritual stakes. He said that angels and demons both observe the morning hour with great attention. Not because it is dramatic, but because it reveals the direction of the soul. A soul that prays, even briefly, signals its willingness to cooperate with grace. A soul that neglects prayer signals its reluctance to be guided. This reluctance, Padre Pio said, becomes the enemy's opportunity. But what he said next carried the greatest weight. He explained that God never withdraws from the soul, even when morning prayer is forgotten. He waits, he invites, he offers grace continuously. The danger lies not in God abandoning the soul, but in the soul losing its sensitivity to his presence. The person still walks with God, yet barely notices him. The whisper of grace becomes faint beneath the noise of an unanchored day. Padre Pio looked at the man and told him that the heaviness he felt was not a punishment. It was a longing of the soul deprived of its first nourishment. He said the soul cannot thrive on scattered moments of prayer. It needs the first fruit of the morning because that moment orders everything else. Then Padre Pio revealed the turning point. He told the man that if he returned to morning prayer, even with just a few sincere words, the fog would lift. He said clarity would slowly return. Fear would ease. Temptations would weaken, and the man would once again feel held by God rather than carrying life alone. This was the climax of Padre Pio's insight. Not a threat, not a mystical terror, but a profound spiritual truth. The soul that gives God the morning gives God permission to shape the day. The soul that withholds the morning withholds the very grace it needs most. Padre Pio said the battle is often won not by extraordinary acts, but by simple fidelity in the quiet hours before the world awakens. He believed morning prayer was the hinge on which the entire spiritual day turned. Padre Pio's voice often softened when he spoke of returning to God. He believed that no matter how long a person had neglected morning prayer, grace awaited the smallest movement of the heart. He said that when a soul turns again toward God at the start of the day, heaven responds with a tenderness deeper than the person can feel. God does not reproach. He simply receives. He encouraged people to begin slowly. A single minute, a single thought lifted to heaven, a single offering spoken with sincerity. These small beginnings open wide pathways of grace. They steady the mind. They calm the heart. They awaken spiritual clarity that had fallen asleep under the weight of routine. Padre Pio said that the peace which follows is not imagined. It is the natural fruit of a soul reunited with its source. He urged everyone to guard this moment with quiet devotion, not with pressure, not with perfectionism, but with trust. He often reminded people that God takes even the smallest gift of the morning and multiplies it throughout the day. He believed that those who reclaim morning prayer reclaim spiritual direction. They walk with more peace, more strength, more awareness of the gentle movements of grace. They sense God's presence in the hours that follow because the day was entrusted to him from its very beginning. This is the peace Padre Pio wanted every soul to know. The peace that comes when the morning opens toward God, like a small window letting in the first light of dawn. If messages like these help you draw closer to God, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. It allows us to walk this spiritual journey together and receive reflections that strengthen the heart. May every new video be a quiet reminder of God's presence in your day.